Hi, this is Jack Anthony, and I'll be your guest speaker for the Class of 72 reunion on 3 October. These are the slides I'll be presenting, and I want to give you a quick audio review of them so that you could have some familiarity of what I'll be showing you. So here goes. This is a fast ride through my slides. I'm going to be showing photos of the Academy before it was the Academy. And here's a picture of the Academy reservation, but there's no Academy. This was in the 1950s. I'll point out where things are, do a little historical map, show you what the area looked like before we were there. This is interesting. This is Lehman Ranch. Let's step back and take a closer look. Hey, wait a minute. That is on the athletic fields. There's Cathedral Rock, and there's the Academy being built. This is the North Gate. So you might say we're looking at where Polaris Hotel is. Then I'm going to tell you about a little town that was in the north part of the Academy by the North Gate. This is Bill Husted. He's a descendant of Calvin Husted, who the town was named after. We'll look at some maps, some signs, check out how Husted appeared to not be in existence when the Academy was selected at the area that they built the Academy on. This is the original North Gate, and we might take a close look at what we see in the background. It was a railroad town on the Denver and Rio Grande and on the Santa Fe Railroad. It also had a road leading up to Denver. This is the Kinner store. There's one home still existing from the home of the Reynolds family that was part of Husted. It's over by the Mining Museum. It was built in 1894. They keep it in good shape. There were businesses along the way, as Bob Seidel, a World War II veteran, established a automobile shop. There's also a connection to a grad, David McElroy of the class of 2003. Almost put him in your class. They took care of the cattle before they were loaded on the rail cars, and it turns out a descendant of theirs is a C-130 pilot now, a colonel. There was a horrible train accident at the North Gate area on the Denver Rio Grande side. We'll learn a little bit about that, and we'll talk more at the end of my presentation about what we'll see out the window of this site. Cathedral Rock is a beautiful geologic formation. It's also a logbook of pioneer signatures. Let me explain. This is a picture before the Academy. You can see the Cathedral Rock. Now, if you look close in this picture, you'll see a bunch of signatures in the volcanic clay portion of the Cathedral Rock. These are done by a lot of people, including cadets, but they are signatures of the pioneers. I'll tell you about the Bishop pioneers. I figured I'd do that because Ed Bishop's in your class. I don't think these folks are related to him, but he'll get a kick out of this part of the briefing. The Shoebars lived there. They were part of the Bishop family. And here I took descendants of that family to see signatures in the rock. Louis Flegel lived in Douglas Valley, and he signed here with exquisite penmanship, and he also signed here on another part of the rock on October 4, 1871. There I am looking at the signatures in the rock. They're all over the rock. Here we see Richie Wilson and A. Welty. Who were they? Well, here's a picture of Richie Wilson's family. They lived down near Houston. And this is a picture of the Welty family up north of Jacks Valley. They came down and scratched their names in the rock. Here's some other signatures. So it turns out that J.C. Kinner had a store on the road leading to Denver. He signed the rock in 1921. Now, there was a little town in the southern part of the Air Force Academy. This is the Teach Out Hotel. It was a stage stop. It was located just to the south of what we now know as Ice Lake. Here I am looking at one of the foundations. They also had a school there. Here we see school kids playing in the West Monument Creek. It was a school that existed 1874 to 1915. Now, one of the most enterprising businesses on the Academy was ice, and a company, Cascade Ice Company, built 2 reservoirs. These were located near modern day Ice Lake, and here you see some of the rock structures used to hold the water back. Beautiful pictures. However, in 2013, the floods tore down the upper left photo. The wall fell down, and here you see a picture of it. There was another town in the southern part, Breed, Colorado, and it was a small little town, a stop on the Santa Fe Railroad, and it doesn't exist anymore. But this was an area where the Academy extended to the south. It still exists as you see it today. There was a little train station just north of the airfield called Summers, and here the folks are waiting for a train to come. Now we're going to take a trip over to see the Pioneer cabin, so I want to give you some context here. The Burgess cabin and the Capps cabin. Here's the Burgess cabin, built in 1875. It's been kept in good shape. Here's a picture just before the Academy took it. Check out that bathroom. Here's some newspaper articles. Now Leonard Capps had a cabin over by where Falcon Stadium is. It's near tailgate site 1415. Here you can see the foundation, a small cabin. There was another pioneer family that settled just north of Edgerton, William and Mary Young. Here we see a picture of their daughter, Marion. This is a picture of their cabin. It was located just south of where the bridge crosses over the creek on your way to Pine Valley or the community center. Now, overlooking the cadet athletic field is the Oliver Hazard Bishop homestead. And there they are. And I have done some exploration up there, and I found that it is very possible that they lived overlooking the fields. They called it Dead Man's Flats. The Otis House is a historical home. It's home of the superintendent now. Normally the commandant. Started out as a cabin by John and Elias Evans, and then became the Lennox House, and then became the Otis House, and finally bought by the Cogswell family in 52, but in 55 they had to leave because the Academy bought it. There's a picture of the original house. You see Blodgett Peak in the background. Also, the Cadet Stables was once the Elkhorn Ranch, formed in 1915 and existed to 1954. There you see the founder of the ranch, Henry Leonard, a Marine from the late 1800s. There's also a mysterious site on the Academy that's modern history. In 1962, some folks tried to build a ski tow site, a rope tow to bring people up so they could ski down into Douglas Valley. We'll talk a little bit about that. Here's the tow structure. Those big timbers held the motor that was supposed to pull people up. They really didn't get far with it. Then we're going to take a break, look out the window, and check out the site of the 1909 train crash. And we're going to be isolating on this section right here. You're all going to be looking out the window. And then I'm going to show you some photos David Hollenbach of the class of 87 and I did, doing sort of a then and now photo compare. So what we tried to do is take William Fulker's photos of 14 August 1909 and try to figure out where did he take this photo and what does the view look like today. And here is an example of looking north. You can see the passengers off the train and the crashed train. Here's a locomotive on its side, and you see people standing on a hill, and then you see me standing on a hill. And here's a close-up of the people and where the wreck occurred, and also another view. So we'll take a look out the window and talk about this and maybe point out some other historical sites. Okay, I want to thank you for surviving my quick talk through, 9 minutes and 30 seconds. I hope you enjoyed it.